about how to use sessions and how to set cookies in order to overcome the stateless nature of HTTP. So here is my index page. Again, very, very simple. I just want to demonstrate how this works first. So I'm going to have a color picker, and when they select the color, we are going to save that as a session variable. So let's start on the front end. So app.js. So the first thing I'm going to do is, again, create an event so that when they click on the button, and it'll call this function process color. So process color, I'm going to store my data, encode the URI component. We've done this before. I'm sending a fetch request to /sessions/settings with some headers. This is the standard header we've always used, but now we're going to add a special header, an authorization header. This is necessary anytime we want to authorize somebody to do something, or authorize a page to or check to see if we have the session data set. Okay, so to put the data we're going to send as the body, and then after it comes back, we'll do our normal stuff, set the background color, so forth and so on. Here's how I generate the authorization header. We are going to, if we've already stored a variable called session ID in my local storage, and this is how we set a cookie, is by calling local storage. I'll show you how to set it in a second, but this is how we retrieve it. So if this session ID exists, then we will create a header that looks like this: bearer, space, and then a session ID. If it does not exist, then we will just return null, and that authorization header up here would be null as well. Now, let's see. The other thing we want to do, so that was when we click. But anytime they visit the page, we want to create a new session ID. Any new user comes, we want to create a session ID and then have that session persist throughout any other page loads. So when they first visit the page, I'm going to call create session ID. And this create session ID, it visits this endpoint. /sessions also creates the authorization header. And if that response is returned, so if I was successfully able to create a session ID, I will set the session ID variable as a local storage. Again, set that cookie. And then if in that session variable that we've created and received, again, we're processing this JSON session. So if within that session data, we have a favorite underscore color element, then I can set the input picker value to that favorite color and change the background color as well. So let's see, I think I talked about everything on that page, except I'll show you delete in just a minute, but let's go to the back end. So on the back end, of course, I'm going to have the put and that, put. So right here we have a put to register a color. And then down here, I'm also going to have a, well, this is a post. So go to /sessions endpoint. So let's go to get, sorry. Yeah. This is the one we care about. So when they call the get fetch request there, that defaults a get, then we will come over here and we will call this function load session data. All right, I need to show you what that is. And let's go do that. So load session data is right here. Load session data. So we're going to get my request headers. We're going to find if they've sent the authorization header. If the authorization header exists and it starts with bearer space, if you forget the space, it's not going to work. So if that exists, then we're going to create we're going to start off our session ID and say remove the prefix bearer, or I'm going to pull out the session ID. Remember the session ID, if it's there, it's bearer space, and then some ID is going to come in with it. So we're going to pull that out. Otherwise, if none of those take place, then our session ID is none. If we have a session ID, if I was successfully able to pull it out of there, then we will go into our session store object and get our session data. And if it's none, If session ID is none or session data is none, either case, we can create a new session in my session store object, store that, create session, get the session ID, and then we can grab the session data for that session ID. And then we will store both of these as global variables. G.sessionID equals the session ID and G.sessionData. G is a special variable. I had to import it up here. So that's another modification I made. I had to import G up there. So it's almost session store. That's what we created last time or in class. So the session store class creates that random number basically for us, creates a session dictionary, and then maintains all of our session stuff. So we talked about that already. So load session data. Sorry, come back down here. Now that we talked about load session data under this one. So basically, if it's the first time they're coming, we'll go load the session data. We will return then the session ID back to them. We'll return the data portion or G.sessionData. And as you can see back here, we can pull out that session data favorite color if we need to. So this is a lot of information. Let me go to sessions settings. Remember, we were calling that when right here, when we called the process color, we're calling the session settings endpoint. And in the session settings endpoint, then visit to this one, session settings right here. We have a put, we're going to call set favorite color. So in this one, we're going to load our session data again, grab our color element, request.form, and store our G.sessionData. Again, all that G does is sets a global variable that I can access these data members amongst different functions, more or less. And then we'll return our standard stuff. Now, this works, but the only problem with it is we need to understand cores. So cores for a delete or for a put, and I haven't done delete yet. A get is fine, but as long as there's not any weird headers, right? So this is a safe method, but then again, as long as there's no weird headers. But back here, there was a weird header for all those, this authorization header. So it's no longer safe or simple. So we need to, again, we're sending that for all of them. We need to do a pre-flight. And the pre-flight, as we know, sorry, this one, pre-flight is basically, all right, if they're accessing this /sessions endpoint and they're trying to do the options, then we will specify what origins we allow, the methods we allow, and the headers we allow. So here, take a double check. This is something new I added. I'm allowing the authorization header. I'm allowing these methods, get, options, put, delete. And I did it twice because look, /sessions, and then I have /sessions/settings also needs that pre-flight as well. But they're pretty much the same. Okay, let's see if that works. So if I come over here and I choose some other color and hit save color, I can see that it did set a variable down there. If I come down here and I delete that data and I refresh, it automatically generates a new session ID and the background color is blank, and I didn't reset that. I probably should reset that color picker, but let's check. So save color. So with that session ID, it saved that color. And again, you can go look at your local storage here, session ID, and you can practice deleting it and recreating it. It will create a new random session ID every time. Delete color basically deletes that session ID and creates a new one. So if I refresh, let's see, delete, well, it deleted that. It should have reset that session ID. So save color, delete color. Or maybe I don't have it quite deleting that, but that's okay. But what I want delete to do, here's what I want delete to do, is if they do a /sessions methods delete, I want to call a delete method, which is going to load our session data, check if favorite colors in G.sessionData, and if it is, we will just delete that that session data variable. And then on this side, I created a handler. So when I click the button, it calls delete sessions, goes to that endpoint, calls the delete method, sends the authorization header, and reset my background color. So that's the quick and dirty overview. I do it this way. I haven't integrated it into my project yet because I wanted you to see all the different pieces and how they work together. My next video, I'm going to incorporate all this to do login and authentication so that they are restricted to what elements they can view until they log in.